only Charles Soule can take a comic that is relatively slow and turn it into a bloodbath. Support the comic industry by visiting your LCS. My name is Dorian. This is SEO Comics. We're continuing our coverage of Eddie Brock's Carnage with number 7. Our story starts off in Colorado, where we have an ambulance that's going down the street and is transporting Eddie, who had a seizure because he hasn't been killing, and the Carnage symbiote needs to kill. The ambulance worker that's in the passenger seat is like, this was called in as an overdose. Well, I don't know. This dude's running a fever and his muscles are tight as a drum. The driver's like, it's not our job to diagnose, it's our job to get him there. There being the hospital. When all of a sudden one of the Carnage symbiote tentacles hits the viewing window of the ambulance and scares the hell out of the 2 ambulance workers. So we see Eddie is unconscious, and this is what happens once he passes out. It's starting to break the glass. The one dude that's driving is like, what is that? What is that? It finally breaks through the glass. The dude that's driving loses control of the ambulance and it starts to roll over. Now, even though the ambulance is being flipped over, the symbiote is still attacking the workers. Eddie finally comes to and he's like, what? He's like, oh no. The ambulance is upside down. It's sliding towards a cliff. I don't know whether it's the symbiote having self-preservation or this is Eddie, but the symbiote reaches out, grabs trees, boulders, and guardrails to try to slow the ambulance down so it doesn't go over the cliff. So now Eddie's fully awake. He busts out the ambulance and Carnage is talking to him and goes, you have to kill somebody. These 2 are probably going to die anyway, so you might as well start with them. But instead, he grabs the ambulance walkie-talkie and he radios in, letting them know that there are 2 EMTs that are hurt, that have been in an accident, and somebody needs to come and help them. So then we cut to Chicago, where we have Muse, and he's doing his thing, making a masterpiece, probably using somebody's blood. And 2 cops roll up on him and it's like, hey, you need to stop what you're doing. Put your hands behind your head, which Muse does. So then we see that he actually spray painted a portrait of Eddie, asking, have you seen this man? So then one of the cops like, hey, ain't that the dude that got picked up and brought to the police station last week and then the feds came and got him? So the Muse is like, so you recognize this man? So Muse gets really close and it's like, what's his name? What's his name? Tell me. And the cop's like, sir, you need to step back right now before we have a problem. Muse stabs him in the eye with a paintbrush. The other end of the paintbrush, like the back end of the paintbrush, the sharp end of the paintbrush. So the other cop is yelling, down on the ground, you son of a bitch. And he's trying to grab for his gun. And Muse grabs his arm and snaps his forearm. So the Muse is like, answer the question. And the cop's like, I don't know. But I can find out, like I can pull him up in the database in the cruiser. So Muse is like, all right, let's do that. So then the cop gets into the car with Muse and he's looking him up and he goes, his name is Brock, Eddie Brock. So Muse is like, Eddie Brock, I see you, Eddie Brock. So the Muse goes to the cop and goes, where is he at now? And he goes, I don't know, man. It says that the FBI picked him up and then went somewhere west. Like, it looks like it's Colorado, but that's all I know. And Muse goes, thank you. And then he stabs him in the neck with the paintbrush. Blood splatters, and Muse goes, beautiful. So then we cut back to Colorado, where Carnage is like, Eddie, why are you so stupid? Like, you need to kill. It's in your nature. If you don't kill somebody, then we are going to die. And Eddie's like, I know that, Carnage, but I will kill who I choose when I choose. I make the decision, not you, never you. And Carnage is like, it's all well and fine, but I don't want to die because of you. So why don't you let me go scout out and find somebody for us to kill? Besides, look at you. You can barely move. So Eddie, weak as hell, just goes, fine, go Carnage, see what you can find. But I'm keeping you on a tight leash. And Carnage's like, whatever you need, Eddie, I'm here for you. And he goes out looking. He goes to an old man and he's like, this one has killed a lot of people in the war. More than maybe what he needed to. So he has all kinds of regrets. He's old too, so nobody's going to miss him. Eddie's like, no. This lady killed her whole family in a car accident. She was drunk. She hasn't driven since, but she still drinks. She drinks a lot. That's all she does, really. No real loss here. Again, Eddie says no. This one shot his business partner when they were out hunting. He didn't get caught. He came home and he sold the business for pennies on a dollar. What a moron. A waste of space. Eddie is like, no. So Carnage is like, you need to stop being so picky. So Eddie's like, these people aren't monsters. They're remorseful. They're just lost. So Carnage's like, you know, if you die, you're never going to see Dylan again. So Eddie's like, hey, you keep my son's name out your mouth. And Carnage's like, touchy, calm down. So he goes to this one dude and he goes, oh, this one seems promising. He finds a drug dealer that likes to take opioids, but he likes to stretch out his supply further by cutting it with baby powder and fentanyl. Now, this dude's not exactly a pharmacist, so this dude kills a lot of people with his drugs. He doesn't worry about it because nobody really looks into addicts when they overdose and die. And he's not worried about his customer base because there's always more. So the Carnage is like, if this dude doesn't qualify as a monster, I don't know who will. So Eddie's like, all right, I'm coming. I need to see this for myself. But then Eddie falls down and has another seizure. And Carnage is like, come on, Eddie. This is getting ridiculous. So Eddie's having a dream about this lady again. And she goes, Edward. And he goes, who the hell are you? And she goes, that's the whole point. If you ever want this to end, then you need to remember me. And she looks crazy when she says it. So then Eddie wakes up and Carnage is on top of him and he goes, Eddie, are you feeling better now? And Eddie gets up and he's like, actually, I do. And then Eddie's like, what you do? And Carnage's like, I saved our lives, Eddie. Like, what else do you think I did? And Eddie's like, show me. So then Eddie goes to the drug dealer's house. And he is dead as hell on the floor. And he's like, so you killed him? And Carnage's like, yes. He was a piece of shit. Why wouldn't I? So then Eddie grabs the dude's phone and unlocks it with his face. And Carnage's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm unlocking his phone because the FBI grabbed my phone and I need to look up something. And he looks up a place that has a green phoenix that he keeps seeing in his dream. Responsible Renewal. It's a wellness place in Spokane, Washington. So then Eddie's like, this guy was a dealer. He must have cash around. And Carnage is like, sure, piles of it. All you will ever need. And Eddie's like, good, show me. So the Carnage is like, you're really not going to explain, Eddie, after all we've just been through? And Eddie's like, honestly, Carnage, I tell you if I could. I'm trying to remember.